Shalom. All praises, blessings, glories, and honors to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha, Quadash. Double honors to my elder apostles and bishop elders of Great Millstone who have taught me this truth, as well of men of like mind. Shalom wa chasad, which means peace and mercy, to the elect of the nation of Israel, whom you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and Israelite foreigners of the seed line of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'm scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great, and abroad. To you I say Shalom, and Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Ratazah. This lesson is edifying and informative. Ezekiel chapter 7 verse 5. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, an evil, and only evil, behold, is come. An end is come. The end is come. It watcheth for thee. Behold, it is come. Verse 25. Destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. First Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 3. For when they shall say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Ezekiel chapter 7 verse 26. Mischief shall come upon mischief, and rumor shall be upon rumor. Then shall they seek a vision of the prophet, but the law shall perish from the priest, and counsel from the ancients. In the news from Reuters concerning the debt ceiling, which has been in talks quite heavily in the news.
I don't think we're in a good place. I know we're not. This ignoring the problem, thinking it's going to go away, he could bumble his way just into a default like he did on the border. I don't know. Maybe his secret plan is to wait till the last minute and pass our bill. We just had our secretary say June 1st we could run out of money. We only have so many days left. The president decided to wait 100 days before he would negotiate. He treated this the same way he treated the border. He wanted to ignore the problem.
Also from the CNN, U.S. may default on debt as soon as June 1st, Yellen reaffirms. It's still likely that the U.S. could default on its obligations early next month, possibly as soon as June 1st. If Congress doesn't act, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen reiterated Monday. And we just heard what the Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, had said, sharing his sentiments and his concerns and his disapprovals concerning the president's attitude towards the debt ceiling. Because America is in extreme debt. Okay? Thick clay, as the scripture states. In fact, before we listen to this video, let's read the scriptures in the book of Habakkuk, 2nd chapter. The 6th verse, it says, shall not all these, the these is referring to the heathen nations, as we read up above in the fifth verse, which reads, yea, also because he transgresseth. And the he is referring to the Edomites, beginning with their elites. Okay? That rule America, Babylon the Great. Transgresseth by wine, his philosophies, his democracy. He is a proud man. And Obadiah tells us this even further. The pride of thine heart had deceived thee. Neither keepeth at home, right? Esau does not keepeth at home. He gallivants abroad and takes that which is not his. He extorts others and covets others for what they have and make it his own. A good example of this is his vast amount of military bases that are stationed abroad. He does not keepeth at home, but instead he has to go about abroad establishing his bases, his wine, his democracy, his philosophies. And this is why the nations are mad. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell. So hell is the grave, and it cannot be satisfied. Therefore, the desire of hell is insatiable. And as his desire as hell cannot be satisfied, this is why he goes about the world doing what he's been doing, being a proud man who enlargeth his desire as hell. In other words, his appetite is insatiable and is as death and cannot be satisfied, right? But gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people. And aren't all these nations here in America, Babylon the Great? Hence the reason why America is called Babylon, which means confusion. This is the great melting pot. All these different nations are here, especially in the belly of the beast. And heapeth unto him all people. So now we know what the him is referring to in verse 6. And these. Shall not all these, which are the heathen nations, all the nations and people that he heaped unto himself and that he'd gathered unto himself, shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe, which means destruction, to him that increaseth that which is not his, because he covets and has taken that which is not his from these different nations which he had gathered unto himself, and heapeth unto himself. All these poor nations, a lot of these nations are messed up. A good example is Haiti, because of the U.S. and other Edomite ruled nations. Nonetheless, Esau. So again, it reads woe, which means destruction, to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long? So how long is this going to go on for? And to him that ladeth, and this is the point, and to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. And that thick clay is his depth. Because the word clay here in the Hebrew is ibat yat, which means depth. And not just any kind of depth, but thick depth. The U.S. is over $30 trillion in debt. So now let's listen to this article. This video, excuse me.
It is a new week in Washington, which means we are another day closer to the US defaulting on trillions of dollars of debt. The president is set to meet with congressional leaders on Tuesday, and sources tell CNN the temperature could be just right for bargaining. CNN's Arlette Saenz has the latest now from Washington.
Now, the scripture again states in the book of 1 Thessalonians, chapter 5, verse 3, for when they shall say peace and safety, that is when sudden destruction, which cometh, according to Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 25, will come suddenly upon the people that trust so much in this man's system. Now, whether or not this man's debt ceiling gets raised, destruction still comes nonetheless, because the words of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua does not go out void. Miseries will come, as it is written, for many great miseries shall be done unto them that in the latter time shall dwell upon the earth, roughly paraphrasing the scripture. And because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods for lack of bread and for great tribulation. So either way, prophecies will be fulfilled, will come to pass. Now let's listen on.
Biden says he's likely meeting with congressional leaders on Tuesday, setting up another showdown over the debt limit. The president said his aides are still working through the timing for that meeting, but top economists at the White House and Treasury Department over the weekend said that the staff-level talks have been constructive. They said they've talked about the need to avoid default while also separately talking about budgetary issues. President Biden has struck an optimistic tone that an agreement will be reached.
What I've learned a long time ago, and you know as well as I do, is never as good to characterize a negotiation in the middle of a negotiation. I remain optimistic because I'm a congenital optimist, but I really think there's a desire on their part as well as ours to reach agreement. I think we'll be able to do it.
Negotiators on the staff level have worked throughout the weekend in preparation for this upcoming meeting with President Biden, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, and other congressional leaders. Officials have said some of the discussions have centered around the budget, also trying to claw back unspent COVID relief funds and permitting reform. All sides have their eyes on that June 1st X date, that warning date for when the U.S. could potentially default on its debt for the first time in history. But some are even warning that the impacts of a potential default could be felt well before that. The White House has warned that if they wait until the final deadline, engage in this brinksmanship, 200,000 jobs could be lost. Business leaders like J.P. Morgan's Jamie Dimon have warned that the stock market could start to panic the closer it gets to that date. Both sides are very cognizant of the economic consequences that could be at risk if the U.S. were to default. The president has said that he thinks that they have time to try to hammer out a deal, but he has asked whether they will have the will to do it. Arlette Saenz, CNN, the White House.
Ron Brownstein is CNN's senior political analyst and a senior editor with The Atlantic. Great to have you with us.
Hi, Rosemary.
So probably the most pressing issue for this country right now is the looming debt ceiling crisis. How likely is it, do you think, that Republicans and Democrats can find a compromise solution to this problem before June 1st, when the US could default on its debt and plunge this country and indeed the world into economic chaos?
You know, this has historically been one of those issues where predictions work backwards, where people assume that default is so catastrophic that it became unthinkable. So the question wasn't whether, it was how. And even in 2011, the last time we had a confrontation of this magnitude, there was a widespread assumption in the political system that somehow, some way, Barack Obama, Mitch McConnell, John Boehner, and Joe Biden would find a way to get it done. I think there's less confidence today. The markets, I think, still believe that in the end, political leadership on both sides of the aisle will not drive the U.S. and potentially the global economy off a cliff in a completely, self-forced error. But compared to 2011, The Republican caucus in the House that is driving this confrontation is further to the right, the majority is smaller, and the speaker is even weaker. And when you take all of those together, you see the possibility that we could be running through this plate glass window in a way that people never thought was possible before.
And that concludes the video. So that will be it for this morning's In the News for now. So now let's get the scriptures and then conclude the lesson. Again, this is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 7, verse 5. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, and evil. Now the word evil means bad time. Eve means time and ill means bad. And only evil, behold, is come. An end is come. The end is come. So the end is here. And it watcheth. Okay? It watcheth for thee. Behold, it is come. Verse 25. Destruction cometh. So destruction is coming. And they shall seek peace. The people will attempt to seek peace. And there shall be none. And when they're going to be promised peace, according to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3, that is when destruction that cometh will come suddenly upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. There shall be no peace, and destruction will come in the form of Jacob's trouble. Pardon me. And the Lord will appoint over 2/3 of the nation of Israel 4 kinds, as it is written in Jeremiah chapter 15. The sword to slay, dogs to tear, the fowls of the heaven, and the beasts of the earth to devour and destroy. In fact, the Lord promised the fowls of the heaven a great supper. Because remember, according to Jeremiah 25, verse 33, the slaying of the Lord is going to be from one end of the earth even unto the other end of it. And the fowls of the heaven will have a great supper, according to Revelation 19 and Ezekiel, the 39th chapter. Okay? And there shall be none. There shall be no peace. Mischief shall come upon mischief, and rumor shall be upon rumor. Bad news after bad news. Evil after evil. Then shall they seek a vision of the prophet. That's when people are going to attempt to seek out the prophets of the Lord, but they will not be able to find the men of the Lord. All access to the words of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai will be completely cut off during the days of evil. Wit shall hide herself. Okay? But the law shall perish from the priest and counsel from the ancients. Right, so Creflo, Give Me Your Dollar, TD Fakes, Joyce Myers, Joel Osteen, and all these different false prophets, and the leaders of our people, which cause them to ear that our people look up to, will not have the answers. Okay? They'll be in despair themselves. And so, with that, I will conclude this lesson. Lord's willing, it was edifying, informative, straight to the point. Until the next, Lord's willing, this has been another In the News. Shalom to the elect.